and there's a lot of different operators out in the marketplace. Ty, how do investors know the good ones from the bad ones?
Well, I get oftentimes, in fact, three calls yesterday. I got, have you ever lost money, or have you ever had a failed investment? And any operator that tells you no is either one, lying, or two, they don't have enough experience in the business. So I think what you want to start with is experience. That right there. I've done approaching 1,250 real estate deals. And so in that number of deals, we've had some massive wins, and we've had a few losses. But we do a couple of things. Number one is I like using a fund because it creates diversity for an investor. And so, where you may have a operator that puts a single asset in each investment, so investors come in for a single asset. If that asset fails or something happens, something catastrophic happens there, you've got single asset risk. Whereas in a fund, I've had a fund. In fact, I've got a fund open right now that lost a multifamily asset. It was an asset that was a really good asset. It was a smaller multifamily asset, but it was a really good asset in what was a good location when we purchased it. But with all the border issues that were going on with previous administrations, it ended up being about a mile away from a shelter that was taking on illegal immigrants. And that shelter then, after about a week, was pushing people out onto the streets, just to keep capacity. Well, there was a vacant lot next to this multifamily property, and ultimately that's where the undocumented immigrants started moving to, and they created a homeless encampment there, and it became a massive problem for this specific asset. But being that this asset was in a fund, we walked away from that asset because we were starting to put good money at bad. Walked away from it, and the fund still has double-digit upside to it because of how we've structured it. And so what I would say is, number one, you've got to look for experience. Number two, though, is looking for a clear defined business plan. Somebody who has not only goals, but they have a pathway of how they get there with each specific investment, and has multiple exits. There's not just, hey, we're buying this asset and this is the only thing that we're going to do, and if we can't accomplish this, we're going to fail. One of my very first failures ended up in a success, because it was really early on in my career in real estate, and I had a single exit model. And the market shifted, and that exit model was either not going to work or we had to change. And I implemented some changes, and that's when I started implementing a policy internally with our investments that we've got to have multiple exit strategies going into any scenario. And it was able to take a deal that, if we would have left it with the original exit strategy, was going to be for sure failure. We changed the exit strategy. We were able to recapitalize and created a huge success that turned into a moderate double-digit return on that investment. And so, having a clear business plan would be the second thing. The third thing is, getting behind somebody who not only you trust, but they communicate clearly to you. So many people tell you what you want to hear, but a good operator isn't going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to tell you the totality of what's going on. You may not want to hear it. It may be bad news, but they're going to say, in our circumstances, we go and I will often say, hey, here's what's going on. Here's the issue that we have, but here's the 2, 3, 4 options that we have to overcome this obstacle, whatever that obstacle may be. And then the next thing that I look for is that, I want alignment. And with alignment for an operator, oftentimes that comes with skin in the game. Sure, you can go out and find an operator that's willing to pay a extremely high preferred return, take a really low promote, and charge no fees. And they're typically an operator that's just getting in the game, and they have little experience, and they don't have their own capital to put in the deal. However, with our circumstance, we got started with really little to no money. We bootstrapped it together, had a small loan from our dad and a small inheritance from our granddad. My brother and I did. And we built that over a 7-year period. We built our own portfolio using that little money of our family, and we grew that. Once we grew that, then we started getting the interest of investors to come in. So ever since then, we have put our own money in every single fund that we do. So we invest alongside the investors. We have true skin in the game. Okay, and then so we're not only making money on our money that we put in the deal alongside the investors. Now we're also aligned as an operator, because now I'm thinking as an operator, what's the best for this deal? But I'm also thinking as an investor as well. Hey, how do I want my money treated in this specific scenario right now? And so I think that is the biggest key to alignment, is having that skin in the game. And then the last thing that I look for, and specifically with us, is an operator that has every component of the business that they can do themselves or manage. And what I mean by that is, this industry can chew you up and eat you out alive. Whether it's construction, whether it's property management, whether it's acquisitions, whether it's dispositions, or dealing with the lenders. We've been involved in every aspect of that. Got started doing our own deals, doing the construction on our own deals. So I've been in construction for as long as I've been in investing in managing capital. I've been in construction for 22 years now. I can build a new property ground up. I can take an existing property and rip the roof off, put a new roof on, do all the floor. Like, I can do everything in between. So when I walk on a property, I know when a subcontractor, or if in some circumstances, if we hire an outside contractor, I know when we're getting taken advantage of. Or better yet, if it's in the right markets where we have our labor force and we have our materials connections, we can beat any other contractor out there from a price perspective, and we know what we're doing. And when we have in another market where we're going and using a contractor, we can be very effective and very efficient because we know what we're doing as far as the construction. And then property management, we've managed our own properties, we manage third-party properties for other operators. And so there's an aspect to that is effectiveness and efficiency built into one manager that you're working with as far as placing capital with. And so those are really the 5 factors that I would look for in an operator on when you're placing capital and who to place it with.